Welcome back, everybody, to the Triad of the Force podcast, a podcast from Puerto Rican friends coming together to do deep dives into Star Wars and other nerd-related media. This is season 5, episode 17, and today we're going to talk all things John Williams, specifically the documentary Music from
by
John Williams on Disney Plus, which, by the way, is amazing. And we will definitely get into that because we love John Williams. We love scores in music. But before we get into that, which brings us joy, we still have to address what happened in the elections because Star Wars, again, it is political. And we did talk about our expectations before, and now it's after.
It's after, and we've had some days to internalize it, to think about it, to yell about it, cry, like manifest our emotions in whatever way we needed. And now we're back in hopefully in a cogent way to be able to talk about it in whatever words are available to us, because unfortunately none of the elections that we were looking at. I mean, that's not true. There were smaller victories that progressives did across the country, but unfortunately, like the big things that we were looking at for obviously the president of the United States and the governorship of Puerto Rico did not go how we were expecting. I mean, not necessarily expecting, hoping. Yeah. Because I think, and we talked about it last time. I think we were expecting the governor of Puerto Rico to have Jennifer Gonzalez win, and I think that she won by the margin that the polls were saying that she was going to win by, which means that the polls were also right about having Juan Dalmau of the Alianza do extremely well. But unfortunately,
not enough.
Unfortunately, we don't have ranked voting back home, so that means that even though the majority of Puerto Ricans did not vote for Jennifer Gonzalez, that means that the governor-elect of Puerto Rico is a MAGA Republican, Jennifer Gonzalez, who is pro-statehood, which isn't the issue in this conversation, but she represents a party of the bipartisanship of Puerto Rico that brought all the misery that we are currently in, and it's disappointing. Like Nanny, like
not just the party itself. She was like the part of the corrupt section, like the most corrupt section of the party. Like the whole getting Ricky Rosselló out, she was part of that whole side of the government that we as Puerto Ricans came out to actually get a resignation from a governor, which was huge, and then they democratically elect somebody that was working for him.
Yep,
because that's logical.
It's one of that's why I think that Puerto Rico, I would always define it as magical realism. Like Isabel Allende and Gabriel Garcia Marquez ain't got shit on Puerto Rico in terms of writing magical realism, because the things that happen at home are beyond comprehension. It's one of those
the
things
entire island is moved to actually get a resignation from this guy, and then somebody that was directly working with him, we elect them. Yay, we make sense.
And
awesome living here.
And not just once. Twice. Because first it was Pierluisi who was the exiting governor, and now it's Jago. It's just one of those things where I'm
Jago.
just that's what we call Jennifer Gonzalez, Jago. It's one of those things where I'm just like what? What's the logic? Like what are people thinking back home? And it's one of those things that becomes even doubly disappointing, because everything that we or pundits were saying were going to happen when she came into power, and she hasn't come into power yet. But even that's the most insane thing about it. She hasn't come into power yet, but the things that she's already saying she's going to do are things that people knew and were saying that she was going to do. She was talking about bringing change, and everything she's done is bringing the same
reappointing every single corrupt person we already know,
the usual suspects,
and then getting rid of the one person that we knew that was actually being effective.
Mhm.
and that the party actually wanted to see coming back. Bye.
What's his last name? It's Nino Correa, right? This is
Yeah.
or I always mixed up names, but yeah,
Yeah.
he was the well, I mean, and liked by everybody, like unilaterally, right? Like,
Yeah.
regardless of part of political parties or
Hmm.
or movements of statehood or
Which is the mark
independence
of
or
somebody
anything,
that actually knows that they're doing their job.
right?
And then, oh no, you're the first one that's outed.
And the person that she wants to appoint for his
Oh
position
God.
is the person that was appointed in that role during Hurricane Maria. The person
Yep.
that hit all the water bottles in the
Hmm.
airfield, the person
Yep.
who was part of Ricky Rose. It's one of those things that I'm just like, does this make what this is? I feel like the show, like the good place. I mean, it's like we're in the bad place. We're in the bad place. This is the worst timeline that we could live in, and that's only
Well, I
Puerto
mean, come
Rico.
on. Trump got
Yep,
elected again.
re-elected officially P47. He's gonna hold one of the few presidents, as far as I'm aware. I could be wrong, but one of the few presidents that been has two presidential numbers, right? Because he's won two unconsecutive terms uh, in a
I think
sweep.
he's the second one in history to do that. And I think he's been the first Republican government in decades to get both
The
the
popular vote,
popular and
hmm
the college electoral vote. So, Trump,
which
really?
unfortunately, and it's one of those things where like, and that's democracy, right? He won fair and square, and I think that's one of the
Hmm.
interesting things. That's the problem with being like on our side. It's like we accept when
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
happen in a
Yeah. They got
somewhat
chosen.
graceful way. We're not going to storm the
Yeah.
Capitol. We accept the results, and it's funny to see them.
Because, he would have if he lost.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. Like
Yeah.
if
Hmm.
they all of a sudden for them there's no election interference all of a sudden. It's just like, oh no,
Yeah. It's all fine now.
everything's fine. It's just like, wait, but if he hadn't, then it would have been. It's just like one of those things that the double
Yeah.
standards are are
Insane.
are absurd, and it's one of those things where 2016 we didn't see this coming, and even though I entertained this as a possibility in my mind now for 2024, it's still mind numbing to think that people wanted this, and it's not just that they wanted conservative economic policies.
Yeah.
It's that they want like extreme strongman authoritarianism and
Yeah.
otherism, misogyny, xenophobia, like the uptick in like hate rhetoric that has been
Yeah.
going up,
Hmm.
and manifestations of uh, unsavory groups for 'cause I don't
Destroy
know.
all minorities, get
It's
rid of
it's
all women's
it's very
rights.
it's very scary because it
Yeah.
hasn't. I mean,
Hmm.
the administration hasn't even started,
Yeah.
and but
And I'm already terrified.
the
Hmm.
effects are already being felt. So it's
Hmm.
uh it was a rough. It was I couldn't sleep that night. It was a rough day. I don't know, like what was the vibe back in Puerto Rico? Because obviously, for people that are listening to this that didn't listen to the last episode, if you know about Puerto Rico's colonial status, you probably know that even though Puerto Ricans are American citizens, we do not have the ability to vote for president of the United States unless you have an American zip code. You're in Puerto Rican zip code, no can
Yeah.
vote. But if you switch like I did and just leave to the
Hmm.
main to the contiguous
Oh, but
50,
you can vote for one, not both.
exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously the vibe back home must have been a little different because you're watching something that you can't even participate in,
Do
even though the
anything about.
electoral college is still BS, right? Because I voted here in Illinois,
Yeah.
but I knew my vote wasn't really gonna matter for the election because
Yeah.
Illinois is usually gonna go blue, even though everything's shifting everywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Texas is turning purple. Like blue states are turning.
Yeah.
Like I think everything's turning purple lately. But it's a mixed match. But
I think the electoral college itself is like outdated and it shouldn't exist anymore. It should just be popular vote
yeah,
and what the people choose is what the people choose. But that's just me. Um, Puerto Rico is hard. I mean, it's been kind of depressing down here. It's been like
Mhm,
raining nonstop for almost a month
mhm.
now. I mean, even the day of voting, there were floods.
Yeah, I
People were having, I mean, the one where we vote right next door didn't have any electricity. It was taking like 3 hours for people to vote. A lot of people just like gave up and turned around because they're older and it's hard to,
yeah.
like step away for that long of a time. And now it's not an official holiday, so not everybody has a day off from work.
Mhm,
So it was kind of a depressing day in general, honestly. And I was still a little hopeful because I've heard
mhm,
from people that are, always vote for a single party
mhm,
and
mhm.
were thinking about changing their minds, trying to bring change, all these things. So I actually ended up going to bed early before any of the results came in because I spent most of the day taking care of my nieces. So
You did the best thing,
my
honestly.
yeah,
Unplugging sometimes is the best thing.
yeah, and then I wanted to make sure because my sister and my brother-in-law wanted to go vote, and they
Mhm.
needed help with the girls, and my mom and her boyfriend wanted to go vote as well, and not be so. Me and Wally like went,
Fiance,
and
fiance. Come on. Wasn't there? Or am I mistaken? Oh, well, I
no,
misunderstood
there's
then.
like there's a symbolic
Oh,
ring there, but no,
it's
yeah,
a what's it called?
no
A promise ring?
commitment ring.
A
I don't
commitment
know.
ring? A
No.
promise ring for adults. Okay, okay. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, my mistake.
Mhm. In your 60s if you want to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
yeah, it's fine. um but anyway, so we got home, went to bed, unplugged. The numbers were looking like pretty
Mhm,
promising,
mhm,
for Dalmau and also for Kamala. And but honestly, deep down inside, I didn't want to give myself the PTSD I got the first time that Trump
mhm,
was
mhm, mhm,
elected, so
mhm.
I didn't want to go home with too much hope. And then woke up. Turns out hope squashed on both sides. Jago got elected, so did Trump. And I didn't go to work that day because I had taken the day off, but I heard that a couple of colleagues like kind of had breakdowns
Yeah,
during the
yeah.
day just because of how are we doing this all over again. And they were both women, and women that have not had children yet but that are
Mhm.
worried about their reproductive rights, that had nieces just like I do, and thinking about what they're going to have to deal with when they grow up, when we thought we got over this
Mhm, mhm.
decades and decades ago, and having to like refight these fights with, you know the Supreme Court that we have and are going to continue to have,
Mhm.
it looks grim. So, yeah, it was really disheartening, honestly.
It's a no, and I totally agree, and I was in
Mm.
that mood on Wednesday, and I mean, I still get the it pulsates, right? Like there's moments where like I
Yeah.
feel more calm, and then like the dread comes back in. But in those moments, like I've honestly like in it's gonna sound dumb, but this is a Star Wars podcast, so maybe not. Maybe for people listening, that maybe this will be
Hope.
hopeful. But Star Wars has kind of been something that has been helping me through this, specifically, Andor and the Last Jedi, like those two stories
Yeah.
have been really kind of helping me out because
Hmm.
it's one, it's hopeful, Star Wars is about hope, but then
Yeah.
those two specific ones have resonated so much more in the landscape that we are now than it did when they came out. And specifically, and I wanted to read it a little bit because it has helped me. It's the manifesto that from Nemec that he
Yes.
narrates to Cassian. I
Hmm.
think in the final episode, and it's very poignant. Like back then, it was amazing, and now
Yeah.
it's even better. And he says there will be times when the struggle seems impossible. I know this already. Alone, unsure, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy. Remember this: freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction. Random acts of insurrection are occurring constantly throughout the galaxy. There are whole armies, battalions that have no idea that they've already enlisted in the cause. Remember that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere, and even the smallest act of insurrection pushes our lines forward. And remember this: The imperial need for control is so desperate because it's so unnatural. Tyranny requires constant effort, it breaks, it leaks. Authority is brittle. Oppression is the mask of fear. And remember that. Know this. The day will come when all these skirmishes and battles, these moments of defiance, will have flooded the banks of the empire's authority, and there will be one too many. One single thing will break the siege. Remember this. Try. It's one of those things that I'm just like, damn,
Yep.
it's so good. And obviously,
Yep.
Marva's speech where she says, "Fight the like we've been sleeping,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
the empire
Yeah.
is never more
Wake up,
alive than when
fight.
we."
Yeah.
So good, but and we want to end this on a hopeful note before, by talking about John Williams. But the last thing that I want to share about that is the Last Jedi, the final scene when the resistance has been decimated, and it's
Yep.
only like 10 people that fit aboard the Millennium Falcon. Ray broke like the lightsaber, the Skywalker lightsaber has been broken. Luke Skywalker has died. They're leaving defeated, and then Ray asks uh, Prince General Leia, "How can we build a rebellion from this?" And Leia just looks at her and she says, "We have everything we need." And that means the world to me because I feel that's where we are right now. We're
Yeah.
we feel broken, we feel defeated, we feel
Yeah.
alone, but I think we have to remember that we're not alone and we're not broken. We are defeated for now, but we have each other, we have our communities, and we just have to, like we
We have
say,
everything we need.
in Puerto Rico, solo el pueblo salva el pueblo. Only the community saves the community. And I
Yeah.
think that right now that's what we have to rely on, and
Yeah.
just keep fighting because the empire didn't, the empire didn't end because the rebellion gave up. The first order didn't end because the resistance gave up. It's just there are more of us. We just have to remember that. But yeah, I don't know, Nanny. What parting words do you have in these coming troubled times that we head into?
Honestly, right now, I'm kind of defeated. But we did this already, and we've done it before, and
And
I
it's
think
okay
you're
to feel
right.
defeated now. We just have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
pick ourselves back up.
And
Gotta
and
be
I
Captain
think
America. We can do this all day.
I think we also have to see um that it is real. There is a real threat, and
Mhm,
not just to like sit on our asses and kind of wait for it to happen. Like I think it's not just with voting, because that's not the end. We
mhm,
can still come out, we can still, come together and try to, because one man doesn't have the power over the entire
mhm,
country.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I think it's important for us to remember that and stay strong and try to not let this government like railroad us.
Right.
So
It's not
I
over,
think,
and yeah. Yeah.
and
Sorry.
there's more
Sorry.
of us. Yeah.
It's
And
like
like you were
I
saying,
was
yeah,
talking
there's more of us. Yeah.
to a coworker today, and he said it.
Yeah.
It's just like it's one day at a time. You have to
Yeah.
choose the battle for the day, fight
Yep.
it, and then start all over
Hmm.
the next day. And just cut cut down on social media. I think that's gonna something that I think is gonna help me to just unplug a little. Not unplug that you're that you're ignoring the world around you, but
Blinded. Yeah.
unplug enough that you have like the mental space to you know have some
Inner
peace,
peace.
but
Yeah.
engage with it enough so that you're not,
Hmm.
so that you're aware and you can fight. But you know, that's not the only thing. There's many more things, and we'll keep fighting. We'll try to keep it hopeful, but we'll still
Yeah.
be vigilant. But let's keep some joy around. We just
Hmm.
talked a little bit of hope, but now let's go into some joy. And I think that music by John Williams was
Yeah.
a lot of that joy that we are missing
Yeah.
in these days and the coming ones. And it was a beautiful documentary. I think it was very hopeful, very
Yeah.
joyful, and
Yeah.
and emotional.
Hmm.
What did you start with you? Like what did you think of music? I guess you saw it last night. I think so. It's more
Yeah.
fresh in your mind.
Yeah. So I didn't actually know it was out until you told me. Thank you, Goose. Um, I've always loved John Williams. I'm not really sure at what point in my life did I realize that I recognized
Hmm, hmm,
what his scores were because I feel like they were so prevalent when I was growing up, and I didn't know that it was specifically him.
Mhm.
But then, watching this documentary that's not just about how amazing his scores are and where the imagination from them comes from, because I loved how a lot of the interviewers and the people that were conversations with him are just like, I don't know where the inspiration comes from. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know how he can do all these scores that are different
Mhm.
kind of at the same time, because a lot of them, like the films overlapped with each other and the themes were completely different. And how at some point you start to recognize that even though you're not really sure who the composer is, but as soon as you hear it, it's
You
John
know.
Williams,
Mhm.
which, it happens at some point. Um, but I thought it was so good because they did not just highlight the music, they highlighted the man, and they
Mhm.
highlighted like what he did outside of film composing, which I didn't know. I mean, I had no idea that he was like uh
A jazz
a composed
musician, yeah.
yeah, that he did jazz, and then they talk about the Catch Me If You Can soundtrack, which I
Which I
forgot
love.
that
Yeah,
he
it's so
did,
good. Yeah,
which
I
I
love
love, but
that
I
one.
forgot that he did. And then
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
when they mentioned it,
Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Ah, so good.
yeah, yeah.
I love that one.
And then that he like conducted the Boston Pops
Mhm,
for
mhm, mhm.
years, and that
Yep.
he got you know pushed back because he was a film composer, not an actual composer.
Mhm,
There were a lot of things that I didn't know, and there were a lot of actual scores that I knew but kind of had forgotten that he did. So it felt really just I got goosebumps a bunch of times, just like when the orchestra comes up and you
mm,
get those clips of when he was like going back and forth about, is this good? Do I like it? Do I not like it? And just, I mean, his scores are going to live forever, but just
mhm,
watching it in like a condensed, it's like an hour and 45 minutes. And then they pack a lot of them in with scenes from the movies,
mhm,
and then they would do, which I loved, like, watch this without the score,
mhm,
watch it
mhm.
with the
So,
score.
and the
And
scene's just like dumb. Yes, he's just like, oh, okay, what? Some
I,
guy on a boat.
stunning,
Mhm, mhm,
stunning. So I loved it. I mean, it actually kind of made my day. It's like, oh, I don't have to think about what's going on in the world right now. I just get to kind of relive these awesome movie moments that I love and these scores that I love that will live with me forever, and I think will live
mhm.
with everyone forever. And John Williams, it's amazing that he's still around. I can't believe you got to see him live.
Neither did I. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not as if I planned it, you know? It's not as
yeah,
if, and
yeah.
I
I
do wanna
mean,
talk about it. But yeah,
which is,
yeah,
I
yeah.
cannot believe it. So yeah, so that was my summary of what I felt with the documentary, which I thought was really, really well done. Um, I was really like surprised also that Chris Martin from Coldplay
Mhm, mhm.
had like so many things to say, and
Yeah,
then
I
that
was
he
just like,
actually
"Why is he in
introduced us.
this?" Yeah, I'm like, "Why is
Yeah,
he in this documentary at the
why is
beginning?"
Chris Martin here? And then he introduced himself. I play for a band called Coldplay. It's like, what? And then I had no idea because I have never been to a Coldplay concert that they've been using ET as
Yeah,
their
I didn't
intro
I didn't know
for
that either.
years, which was like kind of insane. But at the same time, I was like, Chris Martin, awesome. What are you doing talking about John
Right, I'm just
Williams?
like,
But
"Next."
yeah,
I'm just like, "We have other people."
okay. Uh, give me some Yo Yo Ma and like all these
Mhm,
other
mhm, mhm.
amazing musicians talking about John Williams. But anyway, Goose, you saw him live.
I did, and
Yeah.
and before I talk about that, I wanna
Mhm.
kinda latch on to something you said, and it's about the joy his scores make you feel and, like, how,
Yeah.
inspiring his life was and how much happiness, and joyful memories like the world has with the things that he's done. And it's one of the things that like I like want to contrast directly, right? With, with what just happened with these elections. And it's one of those things that I feel like I see people that are latching on to some humans who their legacy is going to be division and negativity and tragedy for other people. And then that's I think that's why this was kind of a timely documentary because it's highlighting someone who create. It's so easy to destroy and tear down things.
Yeah.
And I want to destroy the Department of Education and and all these things, and like, but it's like it's easy to tear things down that you don't like, but it's so much
Yeah.
harder to just create things.
Build up. Mhm.
And the way that John Williams has been able to just make a life out of music and creating these sounds that you can blow on an oboe and like just have a note come out and that's nothing, or do or pluck a string on a violin and it means nothing, but he's able to just take these inanimate objects to make noise out of them that magically arrange themselves to become these inspiring melodies that we all recognize immediately and latch on to us in a deep and meaningful way. And I think it's such a wonderful thing to have people like in our world that just make beautiful things for all of us, and that their legacy is going to be making us happy and creating beautiful things. And I just wish that we lived in a world that had more of that, and instead of like the
Yeah.
next 4 years that we're going to, where we have to stand in opposition against that, which is important. But I just wish that we just lived we all wanted to live in a world of creating things, and I think that's
Yeah.
why, like, I really latched onto this documentary, and for me, it's an interesting documentary because I tie it with this other one that I really really love as well, called the Man Behind the Poster, which is a documentary about
Uh-huh.
a documentary about Drew
Mhm.
Struzan, the great poster artist. It's kind of like the John Williams of posters. That
Yeah.
did like all the posters for ET and Star Wars and
Mhm.
Indiana Jones and a bunch of other films that we grew up with in the 80s and 90s. And and these are documentaries that are not they're not questioning the man, they're not questioning the art,
Mhm.
they're not deconstructing anything,
Yeah.
which is the type of documentary I like, because I want to see like like why people don't respond to this, or like how that was made, or what was the I like to see like all the minutia
Mhm.
of things behind the scene, and how the ET score was composed, or why was it composed, or why do some people might maybe not like it, or so
Mhm.
I want to see John Williams haters too, to see like see like all these points of view, to see like how he rises above all of those things. And this documentary was not about that.
Yeah.
And in a way that was good. It's a love letter. It's a
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
acknowledging the man and the legacy, and sometimes that's fine. And I think that especially now, like, I was thankful to
Yeah.
have a and I don't mean to say that I don't want to be critical about things, but sometimes it's good to just watch something and not have to be critical, because the
I'd be like,
documentary
"This is
was,
just good. It's happy."
yeah, it's
Yeah.
happy, and that was, and it was great. And like, I think that we can do that with very few people. Be like, okay, this is
Mhm.
it's just good, and we're only gonna look at good things. And John Williams is one of those people, and it's just inspiring, right? It's a
Yeah.
you finish that documentary, and at least I was just like, man, I want to be able to write music. Like, I want to
Yeah.
be able to just like
Yeah.
sit in
I've never
I
even
want
played
to,
an instrument, and I was like, "If I could, I would play for
yeah.
you, John Williams."
I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to sit down on a piano
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
start
Mhm.
composing things, because it's that inspiring. Unfortunately, I can't. Well, I mean, I guess I could if I took lessons, but I'll never be a John Williams, obviously. But but it inspires you to create, and it's moving. And to your point of saying John Williams, uh, unexpectedly, I need to
Live.
add, because I
Mhm.
was, it's one of my dreams to be able to have
Yeah.
seen John Williams, because he actually, just like he was the conductor of the Boston Pops Opera, he tours and conducts in other
Yeah.
orchestras around the world. And one of the orchestras that he comes to is the Chicago Symphony Orchestra.
Chicago. Yeah.
So he does coming here, or has come here. I don't know. He's very he's elderly now, so I don't know like how much traveling
Yeah.
he's got in him. But
Yeah.
last year or the year before, like, I saw that like he was on the schedule for the Chicago Symphony to come and conduct, do a concert here. And I was just like, I put that in my calendar, all
Yeah.
the alerts, to be able to like pounds on that, to be able to watch John Williams live here in Chicago. But to make a long story short, the day came and like all the tickets were immediately sold
Gone.
out, because
Yeah.
they were sold in a pre-sale to like symphony members, like orchestra,
Yeah.
like if you're everyone, there's memberships for everything now, and so there's memberships for the symphony orchestra. So people that remember like bought out the whole concert. So I was just like, damn, like this is it. Like I'm not gonna be able to
I'm never gonna see
see
him. Yeah.
him because I don't know if I can justify, going buying a ticket to go to California to go see him at the California Bowl
At
or
the
Hollywood
Hollywood
Bowl.
Bowl.
Sorry, at the
Yeah.
Hollywood Bowl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like at that point, I was just like, "Damn, I'm never, yeah,
It's never gonna
that's it.
happen.
That
Yeah.
I'm not gonna see him. I'm not gonna count on it." But and just like I said, I'm never flying to California to go see him. Ironically, I did
Mhm.
fly to California because we were very
Indiana
lucky.
Jones.
We were very lucky to have been invited to the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny premiere, and that was at the Dolby Theater there in Hollywood. And they were doing the intros to everything. Like here's George Lucas, here's Steven
Mhm.
Spielberg, James Mangold, Kathy Kennedy. Like all the big
Yeah.
hitters, Frank Marshall. Every
Yeah.
legacy, every legacy character. From the '80s that made every single movie that
Yeah.
we love. And then like Steven Spielberg's just speaking about Indiana Jones and how he and George Lucas made it, but how without John Williams it would
Mhm.
never have come together, and how he was the secret to making Indiana Jones what it was. And then as he said that, then the curtains go up and there's a
The
full
orchestra.
orchestra, full orchestra. And I was like, almost passed out because I was like, is this
Is this
actually
happening?
happening? And then obviously there's John Williams
Yeah.
in the conductor's podium conducting the orchestra. I mean,
Insane.
obviously it wasn't a full concert. He did, I think, three or
Yeah.
four songs. He did Helena's theme from Dial of Destiny. He did one from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, if I'm not mistaken. And then obviously he did the Raiders March. So no Star Wars, unfortunately, and
Yeah.
obviously, but
Yeah.
still, but seeing John Williams
Still, it's insane.
and hear that
Yeah.
music in a live setting, it's his music is alive when you see it in movies,
Yeah.
but when you listen to it, it's completely alive because it's people
Yeah.
just like bringing it to its maximum potential. And it's music is special, and it just stirs something in us, and I think that John Williams achieved that. And I mean, so many scores that he has done that are just mad. And there, Hook, that the
Hook.
score to Hook, I think
Oh
is
yeah.
one of the most underrated scores that he's done.
Which doesn't really get mentioned in the documentary.
But they use it in
It's
the
the
end
final
credits.
scene.
Yep,
Yeah, it's the end
yep,
credits,
yep,
the flight to Neverland, and I
yep.
was like, "Thank you," because I was thinking the whole time, are they going to mention Hook? Because that
Hook is
soundtrack is.
so good.
I mean, the movie itself is super
I
underrated. I
love Hook.
mean,
Yeah,
Robin Williams was fantastic, and Peter Pan as a character gets, you know,
Dustin
crap as a
Hoffman is
character.
hilarious as Hook.
He's fantastic.
Maggie Smith,
Yeah,
rest in peace, who they
as
put actual old
Wendy.
and they put old lady makeup in on Maggie Smith back then
Yep.
to make her
Mhm.
look old. So for me, that's why Maggie Smith has always been old, because when I saw
Yeah.
her growing up on
Yeah.
Hook, she was
It
an
was
old
like she's
lady. So
already old. Yeah.
so then I saw her in Harry Potter, and it's like, how is this woman still
Yeah.
alive?
And
And
it's
then I
like
was like, oh,
Gwyneth Paltrow is young
yeah, with young
Wendy.
Wendy.
Yeah. That movie is great. It's super underrated. But yeah, that score
The score
is
is
so
beautiful.
good.
It's just
It's
beautiful and
beautiful.
emotional.
Yeah. And then they mentioned it only for a little bit, the Home Alone one, but nothing makes me feel like Christmas
Then the
more
Home Alone.
than
Yep.
that soundtrack. I mean, that soundtrack is a perfection for Christmas. I mean, all the and that's what he does.
Mhm,
He likes the choruses and the
mhm,
orchestra and all the sounds and all the everything that it evokes. So we can think about, the ones that are really, really like the memorable ones, quote unquote, but Hook, Home Alone. It's crazy. Those are the ones that I really think about growing up. Obviously, Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but Superman.
mhm, mhm.
Superman, so good. I just there's so many honestly
Dun, dun,
that
dun, 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 dun. I mean,
dun dun
sets the
dun dun dun
standard
dun dun
for every
dun
other
dun.
superhero movie, right? And this is
Yep.
before the
Mhm.
the apotheosis, right, of superhero movies that we live in.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, that legacy. And just to think how many, because I think there's a lot of other scores from other composers that are also memorable, but you can't sing along to them, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But you know like Harry Potter, Jurassic Park, like these are
Jurassic Park. Mhm.
iconic ones that you just are able to just sing along to immediately. And the Jurassic Park one, man, I remember when I saw Jurassic Park growing up,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that scene with the Brachiosaurus or Brontosaurus or whatever
Yeah.
the hell it's called,
When
the
it
long
first
neck, and
yeah.
the theme just swells. It's just like you feel it. You're like you feel the wonder that Alan Grant had looking
Yeah.
at that dinosaur.
Mhm.
And you still, even without seeing the film, if you only listen to the score,
Soundtrack,
you
yeah.
still
Mhm.
feel the emotion that score conveyed. So it's kind of, it's kind of also uh, melancholic and bittersweet documentary in a way, because it's also,
Yeah.
acknowledging that he's done,
Yeah.
right? And like we
He's
know
yeah.
he's very, he's a very old age, and we know that
Yeah.
knocking on heaven's door, for lack of a better
Yeah.
of a better term. So like he's not gonna have. I mean, hopefully he's got more scores in him, but he's earned his
Yeah.
retirement. He's earned
Yeah.
his rest, and it's kind of also sad to think about, like, this is the end of an era. Like his scores for the Rise of Skywalker and the Dial of Destiny were some of the. I mean, it's kind of beautiful in a way that he's ending his
Was
career
one of the
doing,
oldest films he
yeah,
did, yeah.
doing scores for the
And
movies that we grew
doing
up with.
saying also that for he really doesn't have the time to hang on to sequels all that much,
Mhm,
but he did all 9 of the Star Wars
mhm,
and he did all 4 of the Indiana
mhm.
Joneses,
Five,
so
five, five.
5, sorry. At this point 5,
Remember,
sorry.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull
I
exists. We
I
acknowledge that.
kind of I kind of eh,
It's
forget
good.
that,
It's
but
good.
I know,
Remember,
I
I
know.
like that one more than Temple of Doom.
I think everybody does.
Oh,
Um,
no. Well, we already talked about that with.
yeah.
If anyone wants to
Mhm.
hear our opinions about
Yeah.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and Temple of Doom, look at
Yeah.
our Indiana Jones review videos that we did with Alex Damon from Star Wars Explained.
Yeah,
They're good.
but it's really good that he kind of tries within the documentary to like not favor certain
Mhm,
projects,
mhm,
but it does come through. Like I really love the fact that he finds from Star Wars, which he wasn't sure if he wanted to do
mhm, mhm,
originally, that he finds Yoda's theme, particularly good, and the fact that he like added into ET on
mhm,
purpose,
mhm,
you know, and the fact that there's like all these themes attached to certain characters, uh just it's it's crazy. And the fact that he finds a little bit of more attachment to those, because
mhm,
he actually talks also about Marion's theme in Superman and
mhm.
how like that elevated, and Marianne's in Indiana
Which
Jones,
is very similar
so
to Leia's theme.
yeah, yeah, so I don't know. I feel like he's a romantic at heart, which is kind of even greater, in the sense of, all these things that he's pulling from to create these soundtracks that are just so memorable and sometimes so simple and sometimes so
Mhm,
complex. You go to Schindler's List, which is just like one of the saddest films I've ever watched. I think I've only
mhm,
been able to get through it like twice, and I haven't been able to get through it again because it's so sad, but it's so good, and the soundtrack just makes it so much more. And I love how Spielberg, from the beginning, he's like, my films would have never been what they were if I hadn't have met John Williams
mhm,
and have him elevate my films to what they were. And Jurassic Park is one of the first ones that I think I remember just watching in the theater and just listening to the crescendo of music, because
mhm,
Star Wars didn't come out, we weren't born when it came out, so we didn't get to see it in the theaters till decades later. And Star Wars itself, I had watched so many times that I remember when I went to see the remastered version the first time, I thought, I mean, this is a movie I've seen a million times. I'm not going to be surprised by
mhm,
anything,
mhm, mhm.
really. And then when you hear the music in the theater come
Yeah,
out like that
it's
first
it
time, you're
hits
like,
different.
what the hell?
I
Oh
mean,
my
I don't know
God.
I don't know about you, but
Dun.
every time I'm gonna rewatch a Star Wars
Oh my
movie,
god.
I always raise that volume up
Mm.
so I can get that, that feeling that I had the
Dun.
movie
Mhm.
theater of the,
Yeah,
main
yeah.
theme just blasting so I can feel something, which I did after the election. When was it, like on Saturday or Sunday? I was just like, okay, I need to watch The Last Jedi, and I sat down, raised that volume, and played it, and I was like, okay, I feel alive. And the last, I mean, one of the things, and this isn't, I mean, obviously we're talking about the
Mhm.
documentary, not the films, but
Yeah,
uh, just quickly, even though I love The Last Jedi and I, for the most part, think that the sequel trilogy was successful, I think one thing that that Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker more so than The Force Awakens was a lack of newer John Williams themes. I
yeah.
think that Ryan, even though I love The Last Jedi, but I
Mhm.
feel like Ryan Johnson didn't let John Williams cook as much. I feel like there was too much reverence to the original scores,
Yeah,
which works amazing. Like the
yeah,
scene when Yoda is telling Luke, Luke, we are what they grow beyond. That is the burden of all masters. And like Yoda's
yeah,
theme is crescendoing, like, and all that stuff. It's one
yeah,
of the most emotional pieces of the
yeah,
any film I've ever
yeah,
seen. And
yeah,
when Luke and Leia's theme shows up again, when Luke and Leia meet for the last time, like
yeah,
excellent use
yeah.
of the old themes. But I would have liked to have seen John Williams make more new things, because the prequels, love them or hate them, I think one of the great things that the prequels had was new John Williams themes,
Yeah,
which are incredible. I mean,
yeah,
the original the prequel trilogy John Williams
yeah.
scores are phenomenal. Yeah,
Are insane. Yeah. Mhm.
practically as good as the original trilogy, I would
Yeah,
dare say.
yeah. And
But
those I all saw in the theater, so it was, like, all new when they came
uh
out, and it's like, "Oh my god, yes!"
George
Yeah,
Lucas let
so
him cook. He let him cook.
I know, and he does say that in the, documentary a lot, that it's, like, a lot of the times, just, you know, go ahead. Figure it out. You're the creative genius. I give you a palette here, a palette there. I
Yeah,
did love how they would say that they would kind of show him the film and just kind of let him sit with it and
yeah.
just like build from what he felt the movie was. Because a lot of the times they had like a completely different score planned for
Mhm, mhm,
Jaws.
mhm,
And the movie would have not been what it was at all without that score, you
mhm,
know? And I don't know. It's just, I love that, especially Spielberg and Lucas, and I think they talk also about Oliver Stone,
mhm,
that they just kind of let him run free with what it was. And what you were saying about the sadness of, the fact that we probably won't get him for many more years, is that he's probably the last one that still uses like a full orchestra
mhm,
to do soundtracks. And I feel like we're going to lose that when we lose him, which is going to be really sad, because these are the, as much as we've had other, soundtracks and scores for movies that we love, um, it's these orchestral ones that really like
mhm,
resonate with us. I feel like as soon as you feel like the first couple of notes, you know what it is, then it lifts you up, and you're transported to a different time. It happens to me every single time with, Home Alone and Hook and Harry Potter.
mhm,
I mean,
mhm,
it's so joyful and insane, and then obviously the scarier ones like Jaws, and sadder ones like Schindler's List, and everything else. It's just, you hear just a couple of the notes, and you're transported back to when you first saw that movie,
yeah.
or how you felt when you first saw it. And I feel like we're gonna lose some of that.
But I also have to have hope with that, because I feel like
It's
we have
preserved. Yeah.
well, it's
Mhm.
preserved, and again, to quote the Yoda thing, it's like we are what they grow beyond. It's like there's always a master, but there's going to be
Yeah.
a new master, or in this case, maestro, right? So like
Mhm.
I have to believe, and I refuse to do this thing where it's just like everything from the past was better than what we got now. It's
Yeah.
just like
Then what comes next?
I'm sure
Yeah.
that there's going to be, some or ebbs and flows, like you said, like, hey, we're not having as many
Yeah.
orchestral soundtracks as we
Yeah.
did, but it'll be a resurgence. And like, I mean, and Ludwig Göransson, what he did with the Mandalorian, with the main theme of the Mandalorian, is incredible. So like,
Oh, and Andor.
and Andor is great. Like Hans Zimmer has done some
Oh yeah.
incredible scores.
Hmm.
Also, so like he's also one of my favorite composers working right now. So like I have to believe that
Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman's amazing also, and that
Mhm.
John Williams has set up a a legacy and a
Yeah.
foundation that
Mhm.
obviously is going to outlive him, and hopefully there's going to be someone that's inspired by that who's going to be better, like,
Yeah.
if there's one thing that I always hope about things, there's always going to be something better down the line. Because if we're just going to be stagnant and look at the what has been and be like that's it, then we're screwed, man, as a society, as a culture. So like
Yeah.
I have to believe that this was great and we have to celebrate it and love it, and I do, but that it's going to inspire more
More
greatness,
generations of other, yeah, I
more
agree.
greatness, great
I mean, I
stories.
that's why I love how he ends the documentary. What was it that he said? He said, um, music is enough for a lifetime, but a
Mhm.
lifetime is
It's
not
not enough for
enough
me.
for
Yeah.
music.
Oh man, that's great. That's good. And what a good thing to kind of
Yeah.
wrap it up with, and the spirit of joy and hope, right? Because I think
Yeah.
that's something we
Mhm.
desperately need, and more music, more joy, more
Yeah.
happiness. Obviously a lot of fight, but that
Yeah.
fight has to be tethered to joy. Because again, to go back to Last
Mm.
Jedi, what did Rose say? That's how we win, not fighting what we
Mhm.
hate, but saving what we love. And I think we have to find those things, because
Yeah.
if we don't have anything to that's worth anything to love that's worth fighting for, then we already lost the battle. So I think that's gonna be our greatest strength, our love for each other, and for the things that inspire us. So we
Yeah.
can hold on to that. I hope. I don't know. I have to double down on hope, because otherwise I'm gonna go insane.
And I think that's a good note to end on. Just let's be hopeful because tough times are ahead,
Mhm.
and we yeah, just have to hold on to the good things that we have around us.
We
And
have everything we need.
yeah, I like that. We have everything we need. So, are we done for today?
Oh yeah, there's gonna be triad for a while, because we're gonna be the voice of the resistance,
Here we go.
or at least a resistance, not
Air
capital T,
resistance.
not capital T,
No.
capital R. No, I don't want to presume that for anybody,
No.
but a
No.
resistance.
Mhm.
We'll do our part in our way.
Well, until next time, we are Triad of the Force. Let us know if you watched the John Williams documentary, if you enjoyed it, what some of your favorite soundtracks are. Let us know how you feel about the elections, how you feel about that. If you need some support, if you need somebody to talk to, we
Mhm.
are here as well. And we have been a little bit Star Wars light because there's not that much, but don't worry, we're coming back with Skeleton Crew as soon as it comes out at the beginning of December. So until next time, may the Force be with you.